Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Kelly from Flat Living Magazine and I'm here today with Dan from MRI Software to talk about Qube PM. Thanks for joining me, Dan.
Not a problem, thanks for having me.
So before we get started and take a look at Qube PM, could you just let me know who you are and what you do at MRI, please?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Daniel Foroshevsky. I am the manager of the Investor Solutions team at MRI Software. That team deals with all aspects of investors, managing agents, and sort of sales and lettings agencies. So one of the specialisms that we deal with is the block management and estate management sector. I've been with the company for just over 5 years now and started off as a business development manager there, working very heavily in the leasehold sector on both the new end of the business and with some of our larger existing clients.
That sounds like a really interesting role and quite a huge scope as well there for you. Thank you. So before we actually jump in and take a look at the software, I was just wondering if you could just give us a quick overview of what Qube PM does.
Okay, so MRI Qube PM is one of the oldest block management solutions in the market and has really been there since the beginning. The core aspects that the solution covers are around resident engagement, lease management, service charge management and client accounting, property and facility management, and also a suite of integrations into the wider MRI application ecosystem. So examples of that might be our sales and lettings front end that allows block managers to deal in the build to rent sector. The solution is used by around a third of the ARMA membership base and is the most widely used block system in the market. There's over 1 million residential units that are managed on the system and over 150 block management specific clients. The solution crosses different sectors. So as well as being heavily used in the block space, it's also used by developers and freeholders to deal with all of their service charge management. It's also used by people across the general residential sector outside of specific block management, and also by a number of commercial agents and companies running mixed-use developments. So it really does have a unique place in the market of being a solid all-rounder whilst having a large amount of specific block management functionality. And we've developed that in the solution over the last 40 years and continue to do so under MRI.
Excellent. So it sounds like it's covering a huge range of all of the different areas that people could need. Really interested now to see it actually, because I think all these years in the industry, I don't think I've ever seen the software that people are using. So I'm really interested to see Qube.
So before we jump into a demonstration of the Qube PM solution, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the modules that underpin that, because not all clients require all of the functionality that we have available in Qube, so we can configure and deploy this in different ways. So your core modules that all block managers will use are the property management, maintenance management and purchase ledger modules. And that will really give you the basis to control all of your tenant management and all of your service charge income and expenditure, along with maintenance management controlling your reactive and planned works orders, contracted works, and also your asset level management. All of the transactions that are collected within the system then move into a general ledger, which you use to reconcile all of your bank accounts with. And then on top of that core system, you have the ability to add additional functionality, things like the Engage Resident portal that enables self-service and better customer service to your residents, things like our Manager Hub and Site Survey apps that are web and app-based applications sitting on top of Qube to allow you to get into browser-based functionality or perform condition surveys. And then also the MRI Sales and Lettings module, which for any of you that are involved in rental businesses and things outside of pure block management, allows you to do full tenancy progression with those tenants moving into the main Qube PM solution to be managed. There are then a suite of industry-leading tools that sit within the system, things like our workflow module that allow you to create your own custom processes in the system, our Excel add-in that allows you to pull live data from Qube into Excel and actually push data back into the solution. And I'll touch on a few of these when we go through the demonstration. So with that in mind, we'll move into a live demonstration of Qube, and over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll show you all of the coolest features in the system. So the first module that we're going into is the property management module, and this is really the nerve center of MRI QBM. So here you can jump into your clients, your properties, your units, your tenants, into your diary and see what you've got to do today, or into your workflow tasks. So there's a workflow module in Qube that's controlling all of the processes that users need to undertake. So making sure that someone's arrears have been chased up, has this gas safety inspection that we've done actually been completed. We can see our events, so anything that's along the line of the lease, reviews, breaks, or anything around there. We can see our job locations, we can see occupancy information. So for people that are managing buildings where they monitor that, they can see how many units are currently occupied and what the ERV loss is. You can configure these dashboards so you can turn different tiles on and off. And in the future, the way our development will run is we're creating additional tiles that users can then bring in so they can personalize these views more. Now you can drill into records from here. So let's say we wanted to look at one of our properties. We can go into one of our blocks here. So we'll go to the West Mill, and here we can see the information about the block. So what diaries we've got, what notes we've got. We can look at any of the expenditure that's going on in that property, any reactive jobs, any planned works, all of the units, all of the tenants. And where we see these grids in Qube, we can start to filter on them. So if I'm interested to look at what expenditure I've had related to window cleaning, I can just search for window in here and it will narrow that all down for me. Or I can filter down to an individual heading. And any of these grids that you see, you can very easily just export the entire grid to Excel if you want to run further manipulations on it. You'll see at the top here, wherever you go in the system, you can clearly see where you are. So we've got the freeholder that's linked to this, the site that that block sits on, and if you were to drill into one of the particular tenant records, we can see that that tenant sits within this unit, which sits within this property, which is then linked to this client. From a tenant record, again, we can, within a push of a button, get to all the salient information about them. So we can see the information about their service charge. We can see any diaries and notes that we might have stored, their transaction history, any direct debit mandates, any help desk calls that they placed, any reactive jobs that have been raised by them on the system. And also on these property, unit and tenant tabs, you have the ability to add your own data fields. So if there are certain screens that you want to add into Qube, you can do that. The example might be this insurance tab, where you can create your own pick lists with custom pick list choices, date fields, tick boxes, and grid-based icons. And unlike some suppliers, we don't charge for the ability to add those additional fields or screens, so you can customize this system to your heart's content. Within any of the modules, you have reports that you can access, and these can be ran at owner, property, unit, or tenant level. Now, say we went to look at our property level reports, we could run stuff like income forecasting, void analysis, age debt reports. And when we run reports like an age debt, we've got all of these different ways that we can configure what that report's going to look like. So, for example, what periods the aging runs in, and we can print that out to screen, and it will bring that report through to screen, which we can then drill through. So all of these reports will have drill points that can take us back to the area in the system that we should be sat in. So I can jump back to this particular tenant, and it takes me live to their record. Now, this module will do all of your accounts receivable, it will produce your service charge demands, ground rent demands, it will do your arrears chasing, and really anything to do with that, the property management aspect. That covers most of the receivable side of the system, and then the purchase ledger will cover the payable side of the system. So again, you have a dashboard view of what's going on. We can see our workflow tasks relating to purchase orders and invoices. We can see our suppliers with expiring insurance, our breakdown of age creditors, which we can then open up and see per supplier what's the age creditor profile going on in our purchase ledger. And we can also see our open order analysis, so what's been ordered, what's been invoiced, and what's been paid, along with lists of our top creditors. And again, within here, you have the ability to create purchase orders, have invoices that get mapped against those purchase orders, and then a whole suite of reports around aged creditors, analysis of your purchase ledger journals, the ability to report on where you sit in your payment covenants to suppliers and how many people you're paying in terms and outside of terms. Moving on to the maintenance side of the system, we also have an integrated maintenance management module, and that's got the ability for you to log reactive calls directly into the system, to create planned jobs or create contracted jobs. So an example of a contracted job might be window cleaning that spans multiple blocks, so you can set that up once as a contract and it creates all of the jobs for you. And within here you also have your properties and units and the ability to have asset registers and drill right down into there, and this is all fully integrated into the wider property management and purchase ledger side of the system, so you can take something from a maintenance call being raised right the way through to a paid invoice, all within the system and in a paperless manner. And then controlling a lot of the processes across all these modules, we have the workflow engine. So the workflow engine is a really powerful tool set in Qube that allows you to create your own workflow definitions. Before we go in to show you what one of those looks like, you've got graphical reporting in here as well, so you can see the distribution of your workflow tasks across your different employees to understand if there are bottlenecks or maybe certain employees being overloaded and the need to redistribute work. You've got your task analysis, so you can see what's outstanding versus what's overdue, and you can also see at a system-wide level where you are in every stage of workflows bucketed into a collection. So an example of that is how many outstanding invoices have we got that haven't been approved, or how many orders have we got that haven't been approved, and how many people have we got in arrears who haven't paid. And if you're tracking all of that with workflow, you can really easily visualize all of that in the system. You can use these workflows to control and create those processes, as I mentioned. So an example of that might be something very simple like a service charge budget approval. So if we drill into the definition of this workflow, when the user goes to actually create a service charge budget approval diary, it can cause a conversation that goes on between multiple users, forcing them to add documents. So maybe adding up a new Excel spreadsheet that's got the latest budget in with some comments, and then finalising that to stop the process and allowing you to agree that service charge budget. And the great thing about workflow is it doesn't just extend to the people inside your system. You can actually use Qube to give workflow access to freeholders or to certain leaseholders if you wanted to, so that they've got the ability to approve things and actually interact with your system. As I say, this is a tool set, so our clients all use this to varying degrees, but it's really one of the most powerful things within Qube. With all of the back office functionality I've shown there in mind, I'm now going to look at some of the web-based and app-based capabilities that we've got that sit on Qube PM. Now we'll come on to some of the mobile functionality that we have sat around Qube. So the first thing we'll look at here in the centre is the Site Survey app. Now the Site Survey app allows you to schedule an inspection or a survey from the main Qube solution, which then gets beamed down to an app on a user's device. This is a configurable tool, and I've just got an example of an inspection here. You can have things like date fields, get people to take photographs of the building. You can pull through the assets into there, have custom pick lists for people to mark appearance of certain things. And depending on how you set these surveys up, different answers can trigger different events in Qube. So if you marked the condition of an asset as fair, you might want to trigger a follow-on inspection in 2 weeks that could put a diary into a surveyor's diary. Or if it's marked as not working, you want it to trigger a ticket and then a works order to be progressed. And all of that can be controlled within the configuration of this app. When you've completed the survey, it will also allow you to merge that into a PDF document, which you would then save at the property level and can make available to all of the users. This piece runs as a mobile app rather than a web-based function, so that if you lose signal, you can still use the app offline if you're in a basement or an area with no connectivity, and then the app will just sync back up when you've got a data connection. And the other pieces I wanted to look at are the resident portal. So that's the Engage portal. So here we're looking at in a screenshot view, so you can see that it would render to the size of a mobile device, but it's responsive. So if your residents are using it on a computer, a tablet, or a mobile phone, it will run the same way with the same functionality on all of those devices. We offer this with two flavors. So there is an Engage Essentials flavor, which is really based around self-service and operational efficiency for both the tenant and the agent. So the ability for people to go in and look at their service charge statements. So here we're looking at Engage in the full view. We've focused really, we have two flavors. So we can do an essentials version, which is based around self-service for the agent and the tenants. And that will allow you to do things like look at your service charge statements. You can see your current charges due. You can see your transaction history. And you can get into all the documents that you want to make available from Qube. So the tenancy level stuff, unit level stuff, and also property level stuff. So that way you can put a service charge year end or a compliance document in at block level, and it's made available to every tenant that sits underneath that block in the system. But then a tenant will only ever see their service charge invoices, their service charge budgeting documents. And if you open that up, it will just bring up the PDF so that the resident can then view that. We have multi-account functionality. So if you've got leaseholders that have 7 or 8 units with you and want a single account, they can cascade through their different accounts on a single login. So it's as user-friendly as possible. And then from a maintenance perspective, we have the ability for residents to view all of the open maintenance requests that are going on, view the history of any maintenance requests, and also log a new one. So that could be done through a simple way like a pick list, but it could also be done through an integration to one of our partner solutions, which is Fixflow. So here you can use the Fixflow application embedded into our portal with single sign-on, consistent branding for your client, and leverage off all the additional functionality that you get there of multi-language support and really detailed triaging of any of the call issues. Those calls can then be mapped to job categories within our maintenance management module, which will allow a resident to raise a maintenance request and you take it through to a purchase order to a supplier without the need for any free text to be entered. So all of it would be categorized and based on a set of rules around what property that job is in, who the preferred supplier is. The system will auto code that purchase order to a certain property, to a certain service charge fund, and to a certain heading based on how you set that up. Now, for larger blocks where we're seeing sort of the need for increased service levels, you might have clients that ask you for things like a forum so that your residents can speak to each other. This excites and horrifies a lot of our block management clients. But you know, if you have somewhere where you might need a resident safety panel or an ability to control the narrative and have people engage with you, this is a great alternative to all of your leaseholders using a closed WhatsApp group and you not seeing anything to do with it. We also have the ability for you to load personalised offers from local retailers and local businesses into your portal. They can be filtered out so that the tenants can see just the stuff that they're interested in. You've got a fully customizable My Home section, so you can have all the information about the units, you know, appliances and utilities, any sort of information that you want to store in here, and also the ability to post news items out to the blocks. And again, we can implement this with just the self-service stuff I showed at the start, or with the whole portal. We have different pricing models there, which we can discuss with clients. So moving on then into the web-based functionality that we have sat around Qube. So one of the new functions that we have in here is something called the Manager Hub. So this is really for light users of the system that just need to see core information and don't necessarily need to be processing in Qube. They can see information about all of their tenants, their debtors analysis, for each block or for each tenant, your funds and headings in the system that are over budget, all of your diary information. So we have a universal search capability in this module. So if someone wants to go in and find Penny Tyler, they can search for Penny Tyler, click into their record, and they can see all of her tenant information, her contact preferences, her current status in terms of finances, what's her balance, what unsettled receipts has she got, when is the service charge due.
You can add diaries in here. So if you needed to put something on the tenant or a property level, you can actually put a diary into this particular part of the system. And what you can also do is raise a maintenance request on behalf of them. So if a leaseholder's called you up about something, or you were doing a site visit and you noticed something wrong, you can raise a call within here, and again, Fixflow can be embedded into the manager hub so that you can use exactly the same diagnostic tool as your residents do and benefit from all of that integration. At a property level, what's going on with a particular block, so all of our units, leases, all the maintenance requests that are going on. We can look at the funds and the finances that sit within a property. So if I were to do this leasehold property here, we've got a dashboard. So on this property, we can see the debtors, our budget versus expenditure. We can drill into a particular fund, so this service charge bucket, and we can see for our schedules, all of our headings, what the current year budget, last year actual, last year budget was, what budget left we've got for each of those. If you want to view it on a graphical basis, we can see our budget versus, our expenditure versus budget, along with any commitments, and visualize where we're at in terms of expenditure on this block. There is also a module within the Manager Hub called the Task Hub that allows you to action your workflows as well. So what this module does is it allows you to click in from the Manager Hub into a tab. So you can also see all of your outstanding workflow tasks, all of your diaries that are going on. You've got visibility of all of the maintenance requests and jobs that are out to your contractors. So you could drill into any of those and see the underlying data. So just showing you an example there, we've got this reactive job that's going on. I can mark that as complete. I can see the information about the job. I can see when it was escalated, if there's any invoice information that's coming from the purchase ledger, and navigate around that. And you'll notice this is a similar sort of user interface across the two modules as part of the overall sort of development roadmap that we have. So with all of that in mind, those are the main elements of Qube that I wanted to show you today. If any of you are interested to take a further look and want to know a bit more about the system, then please do get in touch, and we can organise a more deep dive demonstration for you.
Perfect. So you mentioned if people want to organise a demonstration, if people want to get in touch with you to find out more about Qube PM, where can they find out more information?
So they can go to our website, and there's a link straight to an MRI Qube PM page.